Before it became a staple of classic television, Bewitched was a show full of magic, laughter, and unexpected behind-the-scenes drama. But did you know that it almost did not make it to the air? Stick around as we unveil 15 weird facts about the iconic show that you did not know. Before we dive into video, please subscribe to our channel. Number 1. The pilot episode almost did not happen. Before Bewitched became the iconic show we know today, its pilot episode faced serious challenges that nearly prevented it from being made. The initial production was plagued by budget issues and delays, which left the future of the show uncertain. Universal Pictures was unsure about the concept, especially since it mixed supernatural elements with the ordinary life of a suburban housewife. There were also creative differences between the network and creator Saul Sachs. At one point, the show's future was so unclear that they almost canceled it before filming even began. However, despite these hurdles, the team pushed forward, and the pilot was finally completed. Fortunately, the pilot's success with test audiences convinced the network to greenlight the series. Bewitched became a hit and went on to influence television for years, but it almost didn't get its chance to cast its magical spell on the world. Number 2. The casting of Samantha was a last-minute decision. The casting of Samantha Stevens, the lead character in Bewitched, was almost completely different. Initially, the show's producers were uncertain about who would play the iconic witch. Elizabeth Montgomery, who eventually won the role, wasn't the first choice. In fact, the producers had considered other actresses before deciding on Montgomery. At one point, they even wanted to cast a more traditional Hollywood starlet, but nothing seemed to click. Fortunately for Bewitched, Montgomery's audition impressed the producers, and she was offered the role. Her ability to balance the charm of a typical housewife with the magical powers of a witch made her the perfect fit for the part. What began as a last-minute decision turned into one of the most memorable performances in TV history, and Montgomery became forever associated with the role of Samantha, creating a legacy that continues to captivate fans today. Number 3. Darren's real name was almost completely different. The name of Samantha's husband, Darren Stevens, almost wasn't Darren at all. Initially, the show's creators and producers were uncertain about the character's name and debated several options before settling on Darren. The producers wanted a name that felt both classic and approachable for the all-American, family-oriented character. However, there were some disagreements about whether the name would connect well with audiences. In fact, they nearly chose names like George or Bill before Darren was picked. The final choice of Darren felt right for the character's personality and role in the story, and it became iconic. Actor Dick York, who played Darren, brought an easygoing yet serious presence to the character, helping to make the name a household staple. Ultimately, the decision turned out to be the right one, and the name Darren Stevens remains unforgettable for fans of Bewitched Number 4. The secret behind Samantha's nose wiggle. One of the most iconic features of Bewitched is Samantha's magical nose wiggle, which she used to cast spells and perform other magical feats. However, what many fans don't know is that it wasn't as easy as it looked. Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha, had to practice a lot to perfect the nose wiggle. Initially, she struggled to make it look natural and effortless. It took hours of practice to get it just right, and Montgomery even had to work with a coach to make it ensure her nose wiggled without looking forced. Interestingly, the wiggle was a combination of Montgomery's real nose movements and some subtle camera tricks. The nose wiggle became so famous that it's often the first thing people remember about the show. Despite the challenges, Montgomery's dedication made it one of the most memorable aspects of Bewitched's magical charm. Number 5. Elizabeth Montgomery's sister was almost Samantha. Before Elizabeth Montgomery landed the role of Samantha Stevens on Bewitched, there was consideration for casting someone else, her own sister, Anne Montgomery. Anne, who looked strikingly similar to Elizabeth, was considered as a potential candidate for the role. However, Elizabeth's acting experience and her natural ability to bring Samantha to life made her the perfect fit for the part. The Montgomery sisters were very close, and Anne reportedly supported her sister throughout the casting process. While Anne never made it to the screen as Samantha, she did have a successful career in theater. In the end, Elizabeth's iconic portrayal of Samantha, combining charm, wit, and magical allure, cemented her as one of the most beloved TV characters of all time. It's interesting to think how different the show could have been if Anne had been cast instead, but ultimately Elizabeth's portrayal is the one that became unforgettable. Number 6. The show's theme song was nearly different. The iconic Bewitched theme song, composed by Howard Greenfield and Jack Keller, almost didn't make it to the show. Initially, the producers had a different theme in mind, but it didn't quite capture the magical, whimsical vibe they wanted for the show. The first version of the theme song was a more standard, jazzy piece that didn't stand out. However, when Greenfield and Keller came up with the catchy, light-hearted tune that we know today, everything changed. The theme, with its magical lyrics and playful melody, was perfect for introducing the enchanting world of Samantha and her magical powers. The song's simple, yet memorable refrain, "Bewitched, bothered, and bewildered," became instantly recognizable. In fact, it became so famous that it's now impossible to imagine the show without it. This catchy theme is just as iconic as the show itself and has remained beloved by fans for decades. Number 7. The show's huge cultural impact. Bewitched didn't just entertain, it also made a huge cultural impact that continues to influence television and pop culture today. The show was groundbreaking for its time, as it blended fantasy and everyday suburban life in a way that hadn't been done before. It helped shape the housewife archetype in TV shows, portraying Samantha as the perfect blend of domesticity and supernatural power. Bewitched also broke barriers by introducing the idea of a strong, independent female character who had both magical powers and a traditional family role. Samantha was more than just a housewife. She was a witch with immense power who still managed to balance her personal life. The show's mix of humor, fantasy, and relatable family dynamics inspired future sitcoms, especially those involving supernatural themes. Its success showed that audiences were ready for something unconventional, paving the way for more creative and diverse shows in the years to come. Number 8. There was a huge behind-the-scenes feud. While Bewitched was beloved by audiences, behind the scenes tensions were high, particularly between the stars of the show. Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha, and Dick York, who portrayed Darren, reportedly didn't get along for much of the show's run. York, who struggled with health issues, particularly back pain, found it difficult to work long hours. This led to frustration on set, especially as Montgomery, who was in good health, often had to carry more of the workload. The tension between the two grew over time, and the producers eventually replaced York with Dick Sargent after York's departure in the 1969 season. While both actors portrayed Darren with a unique style, the switch was jarring for fans, and the on-screen chemistry changed as a result. Despite the issues between Montgomery and York, the show's success never wavered, and it continued to enchant viewers with its quirky charm. Number 9. Richard Dreyfuss almost died on set. While filming Bewitched, Richard Dreyfuss, who played the character Kurt, had a close call with danger during a stunt scene. In one of the episodes, Kurt attempts to jump into a moving car, a seemingly harmless gag, but things went terribly wrong. The stunt driver miscalculated the timing, and Dreyfuss slipped, nearly getting run over by the car's rear tires. Crew members screamed, and the scene was immediately cut to prevent a serious injury. Fortunately, Dreyfuss escaped with just a bruised hip, but it was a terrifying moment for everyone involved. Afterward, the scene was reshot, and a dummy was used for the wide-angle shot. This close call was a reminder of the risks involved in filming, and it left everyone on set shaken. Thankfully, Dreyfuss was unharmed, but it marked one of the most dangerous moments in Bewitched's history. Number 10. The movie was almost called Another Quiet Night in Modesto. Before Bewitched became a household name, the show's creators almost chose a completely different title. The original working title was Another Quiet Night in Modesto, named after the small town where the story takes place. George Lucas, who directed the pilot, loved the title and felt it reflected the calm, suburban setting of the show. However, the network wasn't convinced. They thought the title sounded too mundane and wouldn't attract viewers. After several rounds of brainstorming, the producers eventually agreed on the now iconic title Bewitched, which perfectly captured the magical and whimsical nature of the show. Ironically, Lucas later admitted that the title change was one of the best decisions that wasn't really his, as Bewitched became synonymous with magic, family, and classic television. What started as a quiet idea ended up creating a loud, lasting impact in TV history. Number 11. Paul Le Mat broke someone's nose in a real fight. Paul Le Mat, who played the rebellious John Milner on Bewitched, had a temper that matched his character's tough persona. During a break in filming, Le Mat reportedly got into a real altercation with another cast member over a method acting disagreement. What started as a verbal argument quickly escalated into a physical fight, with Le Mat allegedly breaking the other actor's nose. The incident was quickly hushed up by the production team to avoid any negative press and to keep the filming on track. Despite the on-set tension, Le Mat's raw intensity and volatility only added to the authenticity of his portrayal of John Milner. His real-life energy mirrored the rebellious spirit of his character, making him a believable and compelling part of Bewitched. Although this incident was never widely known, it certainly added another layer of drama to the already chaotic production process. Number 12. The police shut down. Production multiple times, filming Bewitched in San Rafael, California, was more difficult than the crew initially expected. The constant noise from revving engines and the loud rock and roll soundtrack playing all night attracted numerous complaints from locals. The crew was filming at night to capture the show's signature feel, but the noise became too much for the nearby residents to handle. As a result, the police were called multiple times to the set, and at one point, they even shut down the production entirely. The production team had to scramble to find new filming locations, and they eventually moved to Paloma to continue the shoot. Ironically, the film's portrayal of ineffective and out-of-touch police officers mirrored the real-life chaos that the crew faced on set. Every night of filming was a gamble, either rolling the camera or rolling handcuffs, but the team pushed through to complete the iconic show. Number 13. The film's music budget was more than the film itself. One of the most iconic aspects of Bewitched is its unforgettable soundtrack, featuring nearly 50 classic rock and roll hits from legends like Buddy Holly, the Beach Boys, and more. However, securing the rights to these songs wasn't easy, and it came at a steep cost. The music rights alone cost $90,000, which was actually more than the entire production budget of $77,000. At the time, music licensing was a complex and time-consuming process, with each artist and publisher needing to be negotiated with individually. George Lucas, the director, insisted that the film's authenticity required the use of original 50s and 60s songs, and he was willing to take the financial risk. His gamble paid off, as the music became integral to the film's vibe, contributing to its success. The soundtrack became just as iconic as the show itself, and Bewitched wouldn't be the same without its energetic, nostalgic tunes. Number 14. George Lucas didn't want opening credits. George Lucas had a bold vision for Bewitched that went against the norm for television shows of the time. He wanted to start the show without any opening credits, preferring to dive straight into the action, letting the audience experience the world of the show without any distractions. Lucas felt the opening credits would disrupt the flow and tone he wanted to create. However, Universal Pictures, the studio behind the show, disagreed and insisted on traditional opening credits, fearing the show wouldn't feel complete without them. After some back and forth, a compromise was reached. The credits would roll after the opening diner scene, allowing the audience to be fully immersed before names appeared on screen. This unconventional approach, which Lucas later used in Star Wars with its iconic opening crawl, became one of the many ways he revolutionized storytelling in Hollywood. Number 15. Cindy Williams was almost recast for being too funny. Cindy Williams, who played the character Laurie on Bewitched, was almost recast early in the show's production. The reason? Her natural comedic timing and the way she brought humor to her role was so strong that it started to overshadow the other characters. George Lucas, the creator, initially worried that Williams was upstaging the male leads with her punchlines and ad-libs, which clashed with the show's more subtle, naturalistic tone. At one point, Lucas even considered recasting her, but after discussions, they decided to keep her on the show. Instead, her comedic moments were toned down, and the focus shifted more toward the emotional depth of her character. Ironically, Williams' performance became one of the show's emotional anchors, and her character's struggles between youth and adulthood became a key element that contributed to the show's success. Which Bewitched fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed these behind-the-scenes secrets, don't forget to hit the like button, share with your fellow fans, and subscribe for more amazing stories from your favorite classic shows. Stay tuned for our next magical episode. You won't want to miss it.